Hey everyone and welcome to this video. So I've just completed 100 orders on Fiverr, and in this video I want to share 5 guidelines that help me hire more effectively on Fiverr. So let's get started. One of the first things I always do before placing an order on Fiverr is to chat with the seller. And this is because communication for me is always the biggest key to ensuring a successful order. And by chatting with the seller beforehand, I can see how responsive they are to my messages. I can see their English level, their attention to details, and how excited or not they are to take on my order. And it's important for me to know that the seller is not only skilled at the task I need them to do, but that they're also a pleasant person to work with and that we can potentially build a long lasting professional relationship. I will usually send the seller something like, "Hey, my name is Omri and I run a platform called Whisker.com. I need help editing a 2 minutes video. Will you be interested?" My second tip is to be very clear. So, before placing an order, I make sure to be as clear as possible about what I want from the seller. I often create a Google Doc outlining exactly what I need and share it with the seller over chats. This helps to avoid any gaps in communication and also ensures that the seller knows exactly what they're getting into. In the document, I will mention even things that may seem obvious, like the file format or who has the copyrights for the final work, so that everything is perfectly clear on both sides. In cases where the seller has corrections on his side, we can discuss them, agree on them or not, and change the document accordingly. This discussion is actually a crucial part of getting the seller on board with the task and also closing any gaps in communication. Then, once I finally place the order and it's time to specify the requirements, I simply attach the document we both already agreed on earlier in the chat. This document will come in very handy and will serve as some sort of a contract between us. Then, in cases when you want to ask the seller for a revision, or in more complex cases when one of you called Fiverr's resolution center to solve a disagreement, we can go back to the document and see exactly what the initial agreement between us was. My next advice to you is to start small. When working with a new seller, I prefer to start with a small order rather than diving into a large project right away. This allows me to test the waters and see if the seller is able to deliver according to my expectations. If everything goes well with the small order, I'm more confident in placing a larger order. Because you see, it happened to me not once before that we agreed on everything over chat, and I created a detailed brief that we both agreed on, but still there was a gap between what I expected and what I received. So I start small. And if the seller doesn't have a small package, I ask for a custom offer for a small order. And this is one of the cool things about Fiverr, is that you can agree on a price with the seller even if they don't have it in their packages. I'm also usually very straightforward with the seller about it and say something like, "Hey, I want to start small and test the water. If it goes well, I'll place a bigger order right after, so could you please send me a custom offer?" This usually makes them agree to send me a custom offer, and they also realize that I'm a serious buyer and they need to pay attention to details if they want to get the bigger order right after. My next tip for hiring on Fiverr is to do negotiate. So, sellers on Fiverr offer packages with fixed prices on their profiles. But when I'm on a budget but I still want to hire a high quality seller, what I do is I browse through profiles and save the ones I like into a list. Once I have a good number of sellers on that list, I send them all a similar message. I usually say something like, "Hey, I'm looking to hire a video editor for my 2 minutes video. My budget for this project is $60. I'm approaching a few sellers, so please let me know if you're interested." I receive some yeses and some nos, but most of the time I also find a good seller that things are slow for him at the moment and they can take on my project within my budget. In that case, they will send me a custom offer regardless of the packages they offer on their profile. Now, my last tip is a bit of a general tip for hiring online, but it's a realization that I've had that may seem a bit counterintuitive. But I prefer hiring freelancers for tasks that I know how to do myself rather than tasks that I'm unfamiliar with. And the reason for it is quite simple. When I know how to do the task, I can judge the quality of the work and communicate effectively with the freelancer about what I need. Even if the freelancer is more skilled than me and complete the task faster and better, I still have a good understanding of what good quality works looks like. And for tasks that I'm clueless about, I try to tackle them myself first. If possible, I take the time to understand them before considering outsourcing them to a freelancer. This way, I have a better understanding of what's involved and I can communicate my wishes to the seller more effectively once I'm ready to hire. Also, think of the seller point of view. If he sees that you know what you're talking about, he will deliver a better product. And that's pretty much it. By following these guidelines, I'm able to maximize the success rate of my Fiverr orders. And I believe they also contribute to a smoother experience with the sellers I'm working with.